Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I have our good friend, my mother Spark, is joining me tonight, and we're going to kind of go down the rabbit hole a little bit about preparedness and getting creative, and how would I say it? How to keep your mind clear and do what we need to do. How are you this evening?
I'm finally catching up on feeling normal after our trip last weekend.
You want to? Why don't we start? Why don't you tell everyone a little brief summary of what you guys did, where you went, what you saw?
We went to Clinton, South Carolina, where Palmetto State Armory was doing a gun show. It is called The Gathering, and it was The Gathering 2023. It was a 2 day event, and it's basically a whole bunch of different vendors, gun vendors, scope vendors, silencers, preparedness stuff, just all get together. And you get to try whichever gun you want, use their ammo, and talk to people, learn, network. I did a lot of networking there. I met some really amazing people, and just really, it was a ton of walking. We must have walked 10 miles a day at least. It was so hot too.
So you got your steps in.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, it's funny because you say, what was it, like 80, 85 degrees?
Yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah.
you're
The first
you're
day,
humid over there.
yes. So our 80 degrees. Usually we're at 80 90% humidity here.
Yeah. So
So
it
our 80
feels
degrees
a
is
little
usually
more.
in the 90s, real feel.
Yeah. Because I know in Houston it would be 90 with 98% humidity and it felt like 95, 100, Out
Yep.
here it's straight up 112 in West Texas. So that's always fun. Not today, though. Today was nice. But that's very cool, folks. So you did put up a video, right?
I did. I'm gonna do another one. Actually, I'm gonna do a few more, but the first one I did was just the walkthrough, the first day of the walkthrough to kind
Right.
of pan over everything for everyone to see. And then I did do a short. I shot my first fully automatic, which was pretty cool.
Oh, you must have had a
Um,
blast.
it was really cool. It was kind of funny seeing the guys' faces because little old me having a fully automatic. He's like, "I'm gonna put my hand on your shoulder." I'm like, "Okay," and
Yeah, I don't need you, sir.
yeah, so it was kind of funny. All the guys around stopped and they were just like, "Whoa!" So it was kind of cool. Now I have no idea if I hit the target because it was the rubber target, so you couldn't hear it.
Oh, okay.
Hubby
So,
said I did. I'll take his word for it. Um,
so, so it's just
but it
going
was
blah,
pretty
blah, blah,
cool.
blah at the end of the
Yeah,
range, and you could really hear it.
yeah. On that particular one, you couldn't hear it, but
No.
it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So, folks, my mother Spark and I, we've been doing collaborations what for over a year now, haven't we? Something like that.
It's been a while, yeah.
It's
hmm
been there's been a few of us. We've been in that same circle. Did you want to intro your channel? Just give a quick overview of like, hey,
I can, yeah. My channel is called My Mother Spark for those of you that don't know, although I do see a lot of familiar
yeah,
faces in this chat. And a couple of people must have been on my last live, like Wolf, because he said pew pew. He's making fun of my sound effects from my last live. Um, but My Mother Spark is about preparedness in general. So not just prepping and survival. That was.
that was the bunny, wasn't it?
Not just preparedness, survival in general, but also I share herbs, natural remedies, so that when people can't get a hold of prescriptions, there are natural remedies to go to. And then on Mondays, I also do Bible readings or a sermon that I put out because I feel like spiritual preparedness is a big part of it as well. So it's kind of everything in one.
Yeah, and I think that's usually an underappreciated aspect. I know Hudson and I had done that live stream what last week or week before, talking about the psychology of people.
hmm
People, I guess it's easy to focus on a solid object, like I have these, and therefore I'm prepared. And you don't often think of the psychological aspect of that or the spiritual one. I mean, because tough times, you're going to have to make decisions that may be contrary to what you really want to do in normal times, you know.
Definitely.
So so I guess we'll start our first topic, and we can just have a conversation around this. But I've noticed a lot of new people in my live streams. I don't know if you're noticing on yours as well.
Hmm.
And
I
I'm
have
seeing
seen a few. Yep.
a lot of younger folks. There was, I don't remember which chat, and there was a 19-year-old in there saying, I just got my first apartment and I'm listening to all of you guys. And
Good
so
for
I
them.
guess for the sake of the folks who are, how would you say, just realizing, wow, that this is actually not a bad idea. What would you think they should do if they're just starting out? Like they basically sat down and said, I need to write a list of things.
Um, First, I think they should research, honestly. Research is a big thing to learn skills, to know how
Yeah.
to properly prep what you're prepping for you and your family. Because what I prep for may not be what, like Pete needs. Um, every family is different. So you want to sit down and research what you need for your family, skills and medical, look at your medical background and just do a lot of research before you jump into anything. Otherwise, you're going to buy a lot of stuff that either you don't need, that is just plain crap, or that you're just not going to be happy with. It's going to be a waste of money. You want to get enough knowledge to know what you're doing under your belt before you just go start blowing your money, um,
Yeah.
and panicking. A lot of people panic buy, and that's not good either.
And that's a good point, because during the hurricanes, and we saw it on a massive scale during the Rona.
Hmm.
People all over the world reacted the same way when an official shutdown came, and the stores just got wiped out, and
Hmm.
people panicked. They were in bad moods, um, and it just blew my mind. Like, you know, Houston gets hit by hurricanes like every other year. This is not a new thing for us, and yet they ran to the stores freaked out. And you
Yep.
know it and that's a really good point, because people will panic buy. They'll buy things they don't need, uh and spend way too much money.
I can't believe
Really.
how many people were filling up their carts with freezer foods, like pizzas and
Yeah.
frozen pizzas and TV dinners and so forth. And I'm like, first of all, you must have one huge freezer to be
Yeah.
able to fit all that in. And secondly, are you really going to eat all that? Is that really going to be sustainable for you? I mean,
Yeah.
it's junk. If things shut down and you're stuck in there, you need nutrition, not just comfort foods. And comfort foods are good, but in moderation.
Yeah, most definitely. And especially when you think, power outages, stuff like that.
Mhm.
I remember before, oh, was it Hurricane Ike? One of the hurricanes, I had texted the house, and my kids were home, and I was like, well, what do we have in the pantry? So they send me a picture of the whole pantry, which probably worked really well. And I said, okay, I'm going to stop by the store and pick up. It was literally five things, like just little odds and ends. And I walked in there, people had entire shopping carts of eggs, like 4 dozen eggs and milk. And I'm like, the power is going to go out in like 36 hours.
Mhm.
Are you going to make like the world's biggest burrito there? I mean, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
like they don't think.
No, they definitely don't, and that's part of why I say research too. Even if you're watching channels, watch numerous channels, because I notice a lot of people when they ask the question, "Where do I start with food?" The answer is always beans and rice. Well, you have to elaborate. Do you literally just want to live off of beans and rice? Just beans and rice? I mean, they're good protein, they're
Yeah.
good fillers, they're good carbs, to keep you going,
Right.
calories, but you really need to, be diverse with what you're stocking. make sure that whatever you buy, you can make it in multiple different ways to,
Yeah.
keep you happy, because you don't want to be miserable and hungry.
Yeah. And that's absolutely true. And I think to your point, there's a lot of folks who are like, well, you need to get this, or you're, as Mike would, Hudson Valley would put, y'all gonna die, and
Yeah. Y'all
and
gonna
it's
die
like,
Wednesday. Yeah.
you're gonna die Wednesday. And I think actually and I mean, he's being silly, but there's some creators, I guess they're not thinking of their audience, like they're thinking of the more experienced folks, I guess, that will be able to filter it.
Hmm.
But new people would absolutely freak out. Uh, and
Yeah, I
I don't
agree.
think they think about that. And I think that's kind of frightening. What about budget? What do you think? Because I know I like to, once I kind of got my base preps, I kind of micro prep. I don't know if that's a phrase, but I go and I buy, like, okay, I'm getting green beans, so I'm going to get one extra little box, but that one goes in the stash. And you buy those little bits and you just kind of add to them. Um, what would you recommend someone who's on a budget? Like, how should they approach it if they have a little bit of a handle on what they need to get?
Um, I would say don't shop at one store only.
Mhm.
And I'm saying this because just recently I went to go replace a bottle of apple cider vinegar. I needed a gallon of apple cider vinegar. And we went to one store for 1 gallon for the regular store's brand. It wasn't even some posh store, it was just a regular grocery store. It was $25 for that gallon of apple cider vinegar.
What?
And yeah, I was like, I am not paying that. There's no way that it should not be over $6, $7 with inflation. It should not be more than that. We left. We didn't buy anything at that store. We went somewhere else.
Jay.
Yeah, I saw his comment earlier. I was laughing. Um, but we went somewhere else and got it for $6, $7. And
Yeah.
that's one thing people need to realize is you've got to shop around. Um, don't be afraid to take the extra time to go to other stores or go online, do curbside. If you have to pay the $2 fee just to pick up or to tip, that's still cheaper than you buying at a store that's going to pay 20 or charge $25 for a gallon of apple cider vinegar. It's worth it.
Yeah.
And I like the Dollar Generals and I like the Dollar Trees, but you have to be careful with their best by dates, expiration
Yes.
dates. And you also have to be careful because they have a lot of shrinkflation, a lot. So what you may
I've
be paying
noticed that.
yes, what you may be paying $1 for, you're only getting half the amount than you would if you went to another store. And just go small. Take $20 out of a check if you can and buy little bits, but buy bits that you can expand multiple meals with. So don't just, go buy ready packs of, say,
Right.
hamburger helper. Buy the actual spices and the noodles, the packets, the broth, whatever, because you
Right.
can use that for other meals.
Yeah. And that's an actually a really good point, is prepping with multiple directions in mind. And I think we've both talked about people should prep to give themselves options.
Hmm.
Yeah, I actually absolutely agree with you. Also breaking down anything you freeze or preserve in meal or serving appropriate
Hmm.
sizes, because you get the big pack of chicken from Sam's, for instance, that's 6 pounds of chicken. And some people just freeze it as one big lump. And it's like,
Yeah, don't do
no,
that.
pull them out, season them, actually split them, because I don't know what Godzilla chickens they have now, but the daggone breasts are like that big. And I'll split them lengthwise, season them, and that will be one package, because two of us could eat from that with some like rice or green beans on the side. And that's a meal right there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep. Another thing too, a good tip is if you're going to buy things like shrimp, frozen shrimp, repackage that in a vacuum seal, because otherwise your shrimp is going to get freezer
yes.
burnt in the packages they come in. So anything that has a lot of space, vacuum seal it and then refreeze. Like, don't let it thaw, but just vacuum seal it and freeze it. Or things that are thawed that you can't, like, say bread. If you want to freeze bread, put it in your freezer long enough for it to start to firm, and then freeze it so it holds its form instead of squishing it.
Yeah. And you got to be careful with the food savers because I freeze. We'll buy. There's a baker out here in Texas who's from Jersey or Manhattan, somewhere on the East Coast, and he makes the old school authentic bagels, the big ones.
Mm.
And I was freezing them, so I vacuum seal them, and I wasn't paying attention, and I basically made a tortilla out of a bagel because it just sucked all the air out of the bagel. And I looked at it and I was like, that was not what I wanted to do. So, you know, you got to be mindful of how you're using the machinery so you don't like flatten your bagels or something.
Hmm.
Uh,
You can freeze milk too. A lot of people don't realize this. You can freeze milk. You can actually freeze eggs too, but you got to take them out of the shell. So,
right.
um, a lot of people use like the muffin pans and put them
Yeah.
separately in the muffin pans and freeze them. Just be aware when you thaw them out, you want to thaw them out in the fridge, not on the counter.
Oh
And
yeah, no.
they're going to be a little bit more of a firm texture. They're not going to be that super runny texture, but you can still use them for, omelets or cooking or whatever.
Right.
It just has a little bit of a different texture, but it'll keep longer that way.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I saw someone using, the ice cube trays, but
Hmm.
they were a big cube, and they were basically pouring an egg into each of
Yep.
them and then froze them and made little eggsicles, I guess,
Hmm. Yep.
and then sealed them up and into the fridge they went. Somebody else put freezing bread, another tip, put a paper towel around that absorbs the moisture. So
Hmm.
that's actually instant bialy. Yes, I was gonna say I made a bialy out of it, but I didn't know if anyone would get the reference. And I got tired of Walmart pendejos during the um but yeah, folks, it's you know making put breaking things up and shopping around, that's absolutely something that people need to be thinking of. Um and I don't think I think people a lot of folks waited until they got an official word that, oh, now we're having a problem, and that's when they panicked, as opposed to paying attention in advance. What have you noticed as well? Do you notice that as well, that a lot of people just wait until they see it on the big screen and then go and then they run to the store with everyone else?
I think, well, are we talking about now or just a couple months ago? Because even just a couple months ago, nobody was still getting anything. Now, hubby and I literally heard a commercial on the radio telling people to prepare.
Oh wow.
And we kind of looked at each other like, did we just hear that right? So they're actually running ads here on the
Really?
radio for people to go out and start stocking food and preparing. Yeah, I was quite blown away by that.
Who was
Um,
sponsoring that one? Was it a store or the
oh
county
man,
or?
it was one of the survival foods, but I can't remember which one. But it was one of the survival
Okay.
foods. I wish I could remember. Um, I can't remember, but it was the
Like
deep freeze dried
Mountain
foods,
House or Ready
something
Wise or
like
something
that.
like
Yeah,
that? Okay.
yeah. And they were talking about, the economy collapsing and inflation and this and that. You need to make sure you prepare, make sure your stuff is in order, and I mean, we've never heard that on the radio. So I think the more people are now starting to hear it,
Yeah.
since the whole thing with the banking, Silicon Bank in California, and the Russia thing going on. Hmm?
Yeah.
My Patriot. Oh, it was My Patriot.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
They do have some was this today? Uh I don't know, not here. Oh, I don't know.
On the radio,
I
is he
guess
asking?
I don't know if he's referring to Trump's indictment
Oh.
vote or every shopping cart in my part of the state. So you'll go getting zingers in the chat today. So what about explaining prepping to family? And I know this is going to be a sore subject for a lot of people in the chat because we've all collaborated and been in the chats together. Um, my family, I don't know about yours, they're extremes. My brother is he and I track each other. Like he's been in the Navy 20 years. He's like, nope, I've seen countries where when it came apart and nope, I know what happens. And then I have one sibling who's like, there's 4 feet of water in Houston. Oh, the water's coming to our house. You need to come get us. And I'm like, nah, no. That conversation should have happened 2 weeks ago when I told you leave and you said no, you'd be fine. So you're on your own. So
Our
uh
family's pretty mixed.
are
We
you?
have the ones that still think that things are going to go back to normal. Still,
Oof.
um, we have one that is young. He's the youngest, and he is just now learning that you know we prep, and so he's starting to learn the skills and learning how to do things, which is great. And then we have another one who's terrified of everything going on in the world. So we have to try to introduce things slowly while letting them know everything is okay. So it kind of depends on where the person is at, how old are the children. I don't think you should ever shield children from everything,
No, I
but
agree. I think
but
that doesn't
introduce
help.
it slowly or at a child level, because if you shield them from everything, they are never going to be afraid of, like, not afraid, but you know what I mean? They're not going to be cautious. They're just going to walk into trouble without realizing it. Kind of let them know what's going on, and if that's by way of telling a child, prices are a little bit more expensive, so let's not waste food, just take what you can eat, kind of thing.
Right.
That's still a way of preparing them, um, without them realizing it.
That's a really good point because we had little kids for most of the hurricanes except Harvey. Harvey, I actually had an FFA boy and a soldier who just came home, so that was a very different hurricane for us. But the boys and the girl were all either an FFA or scouts. So I'm like, oh well, the lights will go out. It'll be like camping. Go pull out the glow sticks and pull this and pull that. And all the kids did was pull all the camping gear out and we inventoried it, and the kids went. I couldn't read their chicken scratch, but they made their little list, and then we went to the
Mhm,
store and we bought what we needed, and it just became what we did. Oh, it's a hurricane again, let's go to the
mhm.
store, and off we went. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you that depending where the kids are, but you can't shield them completely because then they go into the world basically sheep among wolves.
Yes, yes. Thank you. That's kind of what I was trying to say without. Yeah,
Yeah,
I appreciate
being too cliche. Yeah, I know it's a very cliche phrase, but it's true. Um, I think that may be why we're seeing the street crime and the violence we see from high schoolers and people in the street. They've been living in this little interwebs world, and now they're out in public, and you can be ugly on Twitter, but you get ugly to someone in the street like that, and there's going to be fighting.
I think a lot of that started though years ago with the teens behaviors. And why I say that is because when I was in my 20s, some of the stuff I saw smaller children say to their parents, my mom would have knocked my teeth out. Absolutely. She would have knocked my teeth out. And parents became afraid to discipline their children, in any way, shape, or form because authorities would get involved. Well, now all of those small children have grown up. Now they're the 20-year-olds. And
Mhm.
this is where you're having them go out and you're having a lot of these problems in the world. Um, and I always believed that when they first started removing God from everything, that was a
Yeah.
big, big issue because, basic rules were no longer
Mm.
taught to them, you
No.
know, maybe at home, but then you would go to schools. And I actually remember some teachers telling me where I didn't have to listen to my mom. What do I want to do? And I was like, What are you talking about? My mom's my best friend. Why wouldn't, my mom wants what's best for me. Why wouldn't I do what my mom
Right.
says, you know? But even at my age in school, they were starting to feed that crap and trying to feed that crap into me. So if they're still doing that and it's getting worse, we see it in the
Uh-huh.
schools now, it's getting worse. But that's where it started, you know, back to indoctrinating the kids and pulling the kids away from their families, away from God, away from these teachings, the core values, the foundations. And if you don't have the foundation, nothing else is going to stand.
No, and I think not only did they take God out, they took an understanding of history away with it,
Mhm.
understanding of why the republic and the government works the way it does, and how it's not about, the whole system was meant to force compromises, and not for one side to rule like kings over the other. And I don't think they get that. They're
Mm-mm.
either in power and they're being ugly to everyone, or they're freaking out because someone they didn't want got elected. And so
Mhm.
we're going to go and burn down, Target, which has nothing
Yeah.
to do with the politician, but let's go burn Target and steal TVs. And that,
Well, they're doing it in their own towns too. That's what I didn't get. They were doing it in their own cities, and I'm like, you're literally burning your own home, your own way of
oh, yeah.
living.
I can't
No
envision, I
sense.
can't imagine the number of small businesses that went under, not because of the Rona, but because people went and destroyed their own town.
Yeah. And the owners couldn't even protect themselves because, a lot of places they'll protect themselves and the law will go after the company. It doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense. It's all backwards.
it is, and I like the Watchman's point that, but an adult is adult, and if they don't adhere to truth and also reality, that's one of those let go and let God kind of situations where it's just like, which I've
Yes,
had to do with people very close to me over the years. I'm sure you've had to do the same, where you're like,
absolutely.
I wish you health and happiness, but away from me, because you are just you see the
Yeah.
train wreck, the little dark cloud following them around. You're like, I can't, I can't
And
do
that's
that.
hard to do. That's one of the hardest things to do is I call them toxic relationships, and I'm not just talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, just people in general,
Yeah,
cutting out toxic relationships. And if they're holding you back by way of you going out of your way to help them or them always criticizing you or, it's not an even relationship, you have to cut them off to move forward. I had to cut off a relationship of 30 years, my best
oh yeah.
friend, because of this. And it truly was the hardest thing I ever had to do, but I had to do it, you know?
It it's funny. We had some folks I went to college with, and I guess I was supposed to become a liberal, and I became a libertarian. So I obviously didn't read the fine print, but they were. This is when 45 was just getting elected, and I wasn't a fan of the other ladies, so I was like, I'm gonna vote for the guy with the potty mouth because he seems less painful to me than the other person. And they said no because they were talking about the border, and I said we've got drugs. This fentanyl stuff was just starting to show up, and we're like, we've got to do something about this. This is bad. And I literally had just visited distant relatives and friends 5 miles from the Mexican border. And I'm like, people are coming here, they're running from the cartels, and now the cartels are here. And
Mhm.
he said, no, they're not. He's up in New Hampshire. I'm saying, I'm physically just came from there. I'm watching these people dying in the desert. They're doing search and rescues. How can you say this isn't an issue? He's like, no, because on the news. I'm like, I can't do this. Like,
Yeah.
you're physically seeing this stuff, and they're just again that la 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 la, I'm not listening to you mentality, and I can't fathom how they do that. Uh, it's a drag them; they will get thirsty for the truth. Yeah, oh, drug them. Probably not a good idea. So to that point, there's a lot of what can people do? How can they fentanyl was a comfort? Well, but yeah, use you know, when you yeah, the fentanyl when used to mitigate pain and suffering, but what they're doing, they started doing this in Texas. I don't know if they're doing it by you. They're dropping money with fentanyl powder on it.
Hmm.
And we've had a cop go down. A lady went down. The cop went to pick her up, saw the object, went to grab that, had no gloves, and down he went.
Yes.
Um,
Hmm.
and it's happened here in Texas. I'm pretty sure it's happened elsewhere.
They've
Uh,
weaponized it.
yeah. Um, yeah, that scares me, that stuff.
It's surprising. I don't think a lot of people realize how little it takes either. It is such a tiny, tiny bit. Like I can't even explain it, and it can kill you.
Yeah, somebody basically said if they come up to you with like a glove powdered in the stuff and go poof to you, they'll pretty much knock you unconscious within a few seconds.
It doesn't even take that much to kill you.
Oh, really? It's not even
It's
grams. It's small.
yeah, yeah, very, very, very small amount. I could easily put it on a teaspoon.
Oh, I believe it. And it's scary. So, yeah. Well, there's just a lot of stuff going on in the streets that, and then of course, to Joe's point, there are a lot of people who are suffering chronic pain and they can't get properly prescribed medicines to
Hmm.
mediate their medical issue because we're going to extremes, either not regulating enough or completely over regulating. Um, that's tough. But so how about this one? And this is something I also asked Hudson Valley. How can people improve their mindset? Because we can easily go down, the rabbit holes or the doom and gloom. But we're all here and we keep showing up to each other's live streams and we're still talking about stuff and we're still thinking about it. What do you think folks can do?
What I personally do, and you'll see me disappear for a week at a time because things are getting to me. I unplug and I open my Bible and I go off into my closet and have a very long conversation with God and tell him, the world has gone mad. I need your help. Basically, that's how I cope. And um, it's kind of funny because I missed so much in that week of unplugging. Um, I think unplugging is so, so important and growing your faith to know that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. You
Yeah.
know, um, even, and I've said this before, even if I die, I know after I die, I'm going to be okay. Period.
Mhm.
Don't fall into the fear. If you have a channel that's always doom and glooming, shut it off,
Yeah.
unsubscribe. You know, Now, if they're having one day where they're telling you or 2 days where they're trying to tell you what's going on, then don't just, leave because that 1 or 2 times they're trying to inform you. But if it's all the time, there are certain channels out there that
Yeah.
it is nothing but we're going to die, we're going to die, we're going to die, and
Right.
it's not in a funny way. They are truly trying to scare people and then, they're like, "Oh, by the way, here buy my stuff so you live." You know?
Yeah.
And
That.
don't fall into that. If you have channels like that, unplug or get into the mindset where you take it with a grain of salt. Trust but verify.
Mhm.
That's big. Trust but verify because there's a lot of people that echo other people without checking the facts. And just do your own research if you can, but shut off MSN. Shut it
Yeah.
off. Mainstream. Shut it off. They
Yeah.
echo.
No. I absolutely, because you can get sucked into that. It's not even an echo chamber. It's more like an echo vacuum. You just and you get sucked in, and it's you made a really good point. Cross check. From the engineering standpoint, when you run numbers for a project, you're like your first number run is your data point, right? You get
Mhm.
two, now you got a line. When you get four or five, now you've got a trend, and you can say, okay, well, this guy said this, he said that, she said this, and the news, and you could kind of run a line through it, and you're probably going to be really close to what you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
But if you follow those extremes, you're gonna freak out. Um,
And the
no, you're
information is out there. The information that we share with you guys, 95% of it is out there. We've just taken the time to go look for it for you. So if you find a couple of new channels and they aren't matching up, take a little time and research yourself. Just, don't go to just one website though. Also with your websites, check multiple sources and cross-reference. Cross-reference is a big thing.
yeah,
Because YouTube really, there's a lot of channels that spit out a lot of junk, and
yeah.
it's kind of humorous. If you can watch those channels and get laughs out of them, then by all means do it. But
And
um,
some of them do it for laughs. Like you have to,
yes,
once you
yes,
realize that their whole gig or their whole persona is just to spoof,
hmm
then it's kind of funny. But yeah, there are a lot who they have those they have those images, and there's people like this on this on the little thumbnail, like and and then you have some folks who have Dorito Gate and we all gonna die, and you've got all this other
yes.
silliness out there that we're just trying to have a little fun with it.
And I love those. I love those to be able to laugh at what's going on in the world and not I don't mean don't take it serious, just be able to laugh at things, be able to laugh at um, other people, be able to laugh at yourself. Laughter is one of the best medicines, even if you're not watching YouTube, just any dumb sitcom or whatever makes you happy.
Yeah,
Get out of that fear, get out of that anger, that depression, that whatever you have, and turn on something positive.
yeah. And Red Alert, that's another one. Red Alert.
Yeah.
It's I've seen that a lot. Um, no, and that's a good point, because you would think prepping would give you peace of mind. Like, oh,
Mhm.
I have X. We never always have everything, right? No matter, I mean, you look at all of our careers or vocations or skill sets. We've got firefighters, cops, veterans, engineers, all these people that we all collaborate. And we'll get on live streams and someone will say something and everyone in the panel goes, "Oh crap, I didn't even think of that." We're always discovering a new thing to
Mhm.
understand. Um, I like to run amok, Wolfgang.
New ways to look at things.
Yeah,
Seen from different perspectives is always great too.
yeah, and that's why I like to follow different folks. I like to get on panels with different folks where we can talk about things. And because I'll, like you said in the beginning of this live stream, your situation is different from mine, and both of us are different from the people in the chat.
Mhm.
And so they need to evaluate themselves. I do agree. Faith, meditation, whatever it is to center yourself. Um,
Going out in the wilderness, nature. Nature is a
mhm.
big thing too. Getting away from all the electronics in our houses too. I'm a big believer in this, and it's already proven. But all the electronic waves, the microwaves, all that stuff coming off really affects your body too. So if you can get away from everything and get into nature, where a lot of that is cut off, not just in your home, but I mean, think of all the towers and such around your houses.
Yeah,
All that stuff is just doing a muck on your mind, your body, everything. So if you
yeah.
can get away for even just a couple days, get out into the wilderness, into the woods, onto the beach, somewhere where all that isn't. It really rejuvenates your body and relaxes you to get away from it all.
Oh, yeah. If nothing else, you get exercise, which in and of itself, you know, does wonders.
Hmm
People should get out and walk every day if they're capable of doing so, because I absolutely think I don't think we get out enough as just people.
I
No,
agree.
you're absolutely spot on. So here's a question, and this one's a loaded one because I think you and I both know how we're going to answer this. But how do you think if right now something happened, how would the general public handle that?
They'd fill up 2 shopping carts of toilet paper.
Or vodka, depending on who got to the booze first. Um, yeah. So did you read about the guy who bought all that hand sanitizer at the beginning of COVID? And then this was, I think, in Pennsylvania or New York. He literally bought $40,000 worth of sanitizer to resell it.
Oh my
Amazon shut him
God.
down, and then he was gonna sell it like quadruple the price, and he got stuck with it, which I thought was awesome.
Good. Shouldn't have done that in the first place.
Yeah, he did. Marco said he tried to flip it. Okay, so you heard that one too. So somebody's saying somebody's buying fish sticks, but sometimes I'll see this random comment go through the chat that I have no context for.
Yeah,
Um,
same here. Actually, I think a lot of the general public is going to think somebody else is going to help them out.
that's a good
Unfortunately,
point.
I
Mhm.
think that they are going to try to panic buy, um, and everything is already going to be gone, and then they're going to look to somebody else, whether it be a neighbor, a family member, or the government, to help them.
To help them.
Hmm. And when there is nobody either willing or there to help, things are going to get bad because my husband and I were just talking about this. A lot of people think that they're just going to be able to go hunt and go fish if the food's all gone. And I'm talking like major SHTF. I'm not just, inflation.
Right.
Um, but how many people in the world do you think you're, first of all, the only one that's going to do this?
Mhm.
And with all of the amazing um, hazmat spillages in certain water areas, do you really want to eat those fish if you can find them?
Yeah.
I mean, really think about that. If something happens in the water, even off the coast, that's our saltwater life that is, you
Yeah.
know, probably toxic. So that those aren't really going to be options. And I think a lot of people are putting too much thought into that. Or we've also heard, well, I'm just going to go take it from somebody else. Good luck with that. Good luck with that, because you're going to walk up to the wrong door and you're not going to walk away.
Yeah. Well, that book, oh God, what was it? Was it 1 Second After or Patriots? I don't remember, one of those apocalyptic, EMP books.
Hmm.
And I remember there was a gang overran a nearby town, and all the other towns got in cahoots and basically went and removed the threat from that town. They came in at like 2 in the morning and basically destroyed the gang where they were, and sent them running down the road, and there was another group waiting for them down the road because they knew they'd run away that way. I think the people who say, "Oh, I'm going to take it from someone," you might get away with it a couple of houses when you catch people off guard, but folks are going to get bowed up very quickly.
You'd be better off knocking on my door and asking than trying to force your way in.
Mhm. Now, question. So I don't know the laws in your state. I know in Texas, the county judge and the sheriff have amazing power in an emergency. And I know, like, during the Rona, the judge basically declared the emergency, and the sheriff went and deputized, 20 additional people and just started throwing people in the street. And some counties absolutely locked themselves down. They became their own little fortress. Would you see the same thing on on that side of the coast? Like,
I I'm not really sure how that works here as far as the judges and the sheriff. I would imagine as far as the sheriff's department, that would be pretty basic everywhere if they really looked into what their rights were in the law, like how powerful they really are.
mhm,
Um, but our governor here actually, um, he is very familiar with the Constitution, and he shut us down for a little bit, but then he was like, "This is not working. We're going to open back up. We're going to stop the COVID food stamps. We're going to stop the additional COVID
mhm,
payments because people need to get back to work, and they're just using the system at this point." So he canceled a lot of stuff early to
mhm.
um, get our state back on track. There were some things that I didn't agree with, but for the most part, he did okay. And we've lost a couple of businesses, but not as many as other states have. He's been pretty good about getting kids back in school and,
Yeah.
not forcing the vaccination on people before they came out and said it. It was really, he did pretty good, I think, considering how some of the other states really took everybody's
Yeah.
rights away and continue to do so.
Yeah. It was funny because I know, Houston, which is Harris County, the judge there, which that judge got elected by accident because they were doing party line voting, which has gone away since then. And so, like a 25-year experience, multiple hurricane judge got replaced with a 26-year-old lawyer with no
Mm.
military, no response background, nothing. And they made mandatory masks, mandatory everything. And people just wouldn't obey. They were going to the park and, they're like, whatever. And then once you left Houston and Austin, out in the country, they were just like, don't lick each other. I mean, what are you? uh, yeah. I think it went to extremes, and we saw a lot of politicians what they're like, not just the public, but some of our leaders, how they would be.
It was pretty split here. I mean, one thing, my husband and I, for maybe the first week, we wore a mask, maybe 2 weeks,
Hmm.
to kind of figure out what was going on. And then once we realized, we would not wear a mask. And if they had the big sign on the door, we went in without a mask. Like, if they were to say something, we would have just left. But nobody ever said anything, and you'd be surprised how many people didn't have a mask. So I think down here in South Carolina, a lot of people really knew what was going on before things came out public, before um, a lot of the other general public used to know, or found out. Um, but here it was, businesses still stayed open, but they had created outdoor seating just to comply with whatever stupid laws they came out with.
Right.
But they stayed open, like they still let you go eat. They didn't just shut down, um, which I think was nice. But the people that were scared, I mean, they were ridiculous. But they were few and far between. You still had those people wearing their mask in their car by themselves with the windows rolled up, licking the
It's like
window. So
it's like, what are
yeah,
they doing? Yeah. Actually, true story. I went to get Chick-fil-A for a meeting. So I was late to the meeting, but I was the Chick-fil-A guy, right? So therefore I get the exemption. And I'm walking out, and there was someone walking in. And sometimes I'll see the elderly folks, if they're going through chemo, they'll have a mask. And that
yes.
makes
Hmm.
sense to me. It's like you're
Hmm.
immunocompromised. I get it. Yeah. No, this was a younger person with a mask in 70-degree temperatures
Yes.
in the outdoors. The person was outdoors. I'm like, you're not even close to other people. What are you doing? Are you training? I didn't like, that made no rationale, contamination or not. I just couldn't compute that. Um,
I think a lot of people don't realize how much those masks themselves made people sick from not getting fresh air, from not, keeping them clean, especially the reusable ones, the fabric ones, not washing them, how much bacteria is on them in general. And you continue to breathe that in. You give yourself bacterial pneumonia, bacterial bronchitis.
oh,
Um,
with a improper
yes.
mask. Yeah.
Hmm. And they didn't want to take them off. Well, your body needs oxygen.
Hmm.
When you start cutting out oxygen, even in small amounts, it really makes things in your body not work properly. And the, I think a lot of people got sick. And honestly, if I am being blunt, I really think that that is why my mom ended up getting sick and passing, because she would not take off that mask.
And you think it did her harm over time.
She had COPD, and she ended up getting pneumonia by the
Because
time
the
we got her.
moisture.
Yes. Hmm.
I hadn't thought of that. The minute you said that she had got bronchitis and pneumonia, I'm thinking you need
Yep.
a lot of moisture to do that. Yeah.
Mhm. By the time she went into the hospital, 5 days after, her oxygen level was already at 60%.
Oh,
It was that
I'm
fast.
so sorry.
So I begged people not to wear the mask,
I think
especially people that were
psychologically
sick
it hurt elderly too.
and children,
Hmm.
not being able to
It's
see expressions on people's faces.
a true story. I was joking with a coworker who has a little girl that was born right at the beginning of the Rona. Of course, nobody knew that was coming. And I wound up getting that one of the corgis 2 months before they shut us down, right? So that one pup didn't get to go out as much as the other dogs. So I go out with them. And if we come to you, all the dogs will come to you except her. She will kind of hang back. And I call her my Rona puppy. And it was just a running joke. And then my coworker said, no, that's my daughter. Because her little cousins were a little bit older or a little bit younger, and they got socialized. And when we go to the playground, they're out touching the other kids, eating
Mhm,
dirt, playing with lizards. And she kind of is very reserved. And she said, she truly felt that the mask and the separation
mhm.
did it. There was a negative dividend with all that.
Well, taking kids out of school really affected them too, not having that socialization.
Yeah.
I think in a few years, you're gonna have even more depression amongst the kids that were not able to go to school because there was no socializing, there were no events, they couldn't get together, they couldn't be themselves.
You know how I saw some teenagers here get around the regulation was they went to Starbucks drive through, right? They got their little coffees. They sat in the parking lot and they parked all their cars, tailgates facing each
Mm,
other in this massive circle. They took up the whole parking lot and they were throwing footballs around. Nobody was wearing masks. One was dancing. I don't know. He was dancing that K-pop dance. I don't even know what the hell it's called, like Gangnam Style or something. And he was just
you know
freaking
how to
out.
do that.
Oh God, I would kill myself. I know the dance. I don't know if I could dance it. And I'm looking at those kids as I'm driving by, and I'm like, you guys, that was pretty ingenious. You technically are obeying. You have checked the box, and they were
Mhm.
having a blast. They were having a party. They probably all got contaminated with whatever the others had, and they didn't care. And we didn't have a bunch of teenagers die. It just not that there aren't times for a mask. I learned that when they blew up that building and that big cloud
Yeah,
of dust, which I didn't think
yes.
was going to travel 400 yards and hit me on the third floor of a building while I was on the patio and
And
got
it
in
it
my,
was
huh?
thick too.
Oh, I couldn't see maybe
Mhm,
a yard in front of me. And I mean, it got my drink, it got my hat, my poor wife's hair. It just she looked like a ghost. It just went poof, like someone hit us with a bag of dirt. And
when you pan down, you could see the footsteps through it.
oh yeah, it was
Mhm.
bad. We probably all inhaled like 1940s asbestos. God. And what's funny is the we saw it, and I was the minute I saw the cloud, I went, I should have brought a mask and safety glasses. I didn't think that one through. So my wife and I are like, let's pack up. So you notice you hear the in the background. I'm starting to pack up, and people were just standing there. And and then one of the moms goes, "Oh shit!" And like it just dawned on her, and her kids they all ran, and everyone just stood there and got hit with the cloud. At least I was facing the other way. It
Mhm.
just hit them in the face. They were like, "Whoa!" Um, he didn't
Like,
comply with
I saw the one
the.
couple on the sidewalk below, like, walk into it, and I was like with the kid on their shoulders? Did you see
Yes.
that? I was like,
S-
"What are you doing?"
So those families that were on the ground level were not supposed to
Mhm,
be there. The cop had run them off. But
mhm,
when they were doing the blasting, all the police had moved in to create that inner perimeter
mhm.
and they just wandered back. And I mean, you couldn't see those people. That cloud, we were driving
Yeah,
through it for 4 blocks. It did make me wonder how bad 9/11 was because that was one building and everyone knew what was happening. Um,
yeah, I couldn't imagine. That
yeah.
that definitely calls for a mask. Good night, coffee.
Hey, good night, coffee. Thank you.
Um, it's, it's the larger particles, the dust,
Yeah.
the sawdust, concrete dust, paint, like fumes,
A
different
wet
masks for different
bandana or gas, a mask.
yes.
Yeah.
Things like that you should absolutely then yeah, I would wear a mask,
Yeah.
but
It needs
for
to be
every
common
day,
sense. Yeah.
unless
No.
you're sick, then if you want to wear a mask because you're sick with just, I don't know, the flu or something, then by all
Yeah.
means, that's fine. But really, you should
Um,
stay home if you have the flu.
yeah, for sure. Well, we're right just under an hour, so I guess I'll open it to the floor if
Oh
anyone
wow.
has any questions. Yeah, I know. I just looked up and went, "Holy cow!" Yeah. Um, yeah, an N95 against a virus is insane. You need
Mm.
like mop gear for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Folks, do we have any questions for my awesome guest tonight? Did your friend in the cage fall asleep over there?
No, I hear him moving around. You get to see him
Yeah, I
first.
could
Look,
see that. Oh, look at that.
look, you guys. I was gonna introduce him on my live stream, so don't tell anyone. But this is our new fur baby. His name is Daryl, and he was gifted to us. We went to a gun show and came back with a bunny. And I came back with a knife, but they're not gonna meet each other.
No, preferably not.
No dinner. No, I have named him, so I'm not gonna eat
His
him.
name is Dinner. So we had one question about the eggs. But you okay. Have you heard about coating eggs with oil to prolong them?
I did see that, and that is actually you do that with fresh eggs, not store bought.
Because they still need like the membrane around them, correct?
Yes.
Or whatever it is from the chicken.
Yeah, it's not going to work with store bought because
Okay.
store bought is already washed and processed, and they have kind of a protective layer on them already. Back in the old days, they would just put their eggs on the counter for a while, not put them right in the refrigerator. But store bought, you've got to put them in the fridge
Right.
um,
Can't you
because they've
also
already
do
been
like
processed.
lime juice or something? Not lime juice, lime calcium water, lime water. It's like a soak. I can't remember what it is.
Water glassing, I have not tried that yet, and that's
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and that's with fresh eggs as well. And then I guess I haven't tried this either, but if you drop them in vinegar overnight, it's supposed to soften their shell. That's what breaks down the calcium on them. I think that might be what you're thinking about.
Okay, maybe
Um,
so. Some
but I've not done
somebody
that
says,
either.
"How
I
can you
haven't seen
have
it
kids? You're
either.
17."
I have a 25-year-old son,
Yeah.
believe it
Yeah.
or not.
I got kids in the
Thank
early
you.
20s too.
Hmm.
A bunny,
Yep,
cool.
I
We
have a
had a Polish
25 and a
dwarf growing up.
15-year-old.
Hey, a Psycho Billy. My property is Bunnytopia. So apparently we have lots of bunnies there. And yeah, you can dehydrate or freeze dry them. That's a great way.
Hmm.
God, but freeze. Okay, my comment above was referring to water glassing. Okay.
Okay.
And okay, well, All American has the rabbits, but he's using them as broilers or meat rabbits. So, well, cool. Well, folks, I think that was it for the questions. Did you have any parting words or wisdoms for our friends in the chat tonight?
Um, Stay connected to each other. Unplug when you have to. Don't fall into the fear. Please don't fall into the fear.
Yeah.
Be kind to each other. Pray.
Yeah.
Trust that God's got you. And hit the thumbs up.
Yes. Thank you. And folks, with that, we're gonna call it an evening. So you guys, I think there are multiple channels going live. I think Angry Prepper, New York Prepper, Survivalist. I think Vision may be going. I have no idea. There's like 20 different channels going on right now. So no rabbit holes. Y'all folks, stay safe, be careful out there, God bless, and we will see you all later on. Take care.
Bye, guys.